Hi guys, good morning. Hopefully you can all hear us again because we turn on the microphone. So welcome again.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome.
We have here a special webinar for administrators. Of course, if you're not an administrator, it might be interesting as well, but keep in mind these functionalities we're going to show you are really more technical than you are used to as end user.
Yeah, that's great.
So let's start. And as said, we are having a webinar about the AdminBox. And today I do it not with one of the account managers you are used to, but I do it with Fabrice. Good morning, Fabrice.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. So hello to everyone. I don't know. I probably met some of you in the past, but I'm working at the headquarters of Efficy. I'm a senior pre-sales consultant. And I'm generally helping sales guys, but also some project guys in order to, evaluate good project and define the scope of next project for customers that are actually using Efficy. So I personally know quite well the Efficy designer called the toolbox, and I'm really pleased to show you how to handle the designer.
All right. So for me, really quickly, and maybe for other people, so what's the difference between the sales guys and you as pre-sales?
As pre-sales, let's say that I have a technical point of view on projects. I precisely know the product, from the top of the user functionality to the top down of the technical aspect of the product, and I'm working hand in hand with the project management and the analyst in order to define scopes of projects and also estimate the charge in terms of man days in order to deliver projects.
So all right.
I'm really not just a sales guy.
No, that we have that clear, and that's why the reason why we ask you to join this webinar. Thank you for being here. So what's on the program today? We have a very full program. We go a little bit different than we normally do. Normally we have some theory, but this time we dive right in. In the demos. Well, demos. I'm just going to show all the things, and we're going to talk about the user groups, how to create entities, and how to manage and create the content. And then, of course, we finish off with the Q&A. So for those who are used to receive the presentation after this webinar, you will not get a presentation because there is no presentation.
Yeah, there is no presentation, but you will still have the ability to watch again the video.
Yes. Yes, that will be on our YouTube channel. So I would say, Fabrice, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. And let's jump into the tool. So for those who don't know the designer, you have a specific URL, which is this one. So you have the designer URL, which is another interface in order to connect to your database. Basically, the idea is that with this tool, you should have the admin rights in order to enter this app.
Okay, so
if you don't have if you don't have the admin rights, you will not be able to connect yourself to the designer part of the application. But I will show you during the demo how to give to someone the right to access, in fact, to the designer. So let's jump into the designer. You are placing your login and password, and then you click on login. You have different icons on the top of the screen. The first icon is really dedicated to database management, and I will not discover this tab today. Let's say that you would be able to discover that if you are following a specific training about the designer.
Okay, so because when you mess in the database, you may be
and it's also really linked to upgrade the structure of the database or create a copy of the database with content only or the structure and the content, etc. So it's more technical part. So let's jump into what we defined for today. So field management, entity management, forms. This is the second tab. So when you are using your Efficy, if you look, for example, at a company, let's say I will take the Efficy headquarters, so I'm within the classic edition of a company. You have here different fields that are present on the screen. This is a form, in fact, containing 3 fields.
Okay.
So if you want to add fields on your screen, you have to do it on 2 different elements. First, you have to create your fields and define the fields, the type of fields, and then after that, you will have the ability to select the field that you want to place into this form and choose what will be the aspect of this form. Okay, so 2 different steps. So let's jump into the first step, which is the definition of a new field. So when you want to create a new field, you are first selecting the major table on which you want to add this field. So let's imagine that I want to create a new field on the company level.
Okay.
I'm clicking on company. And when you click on company, you directly have an access to all the fields that are actually present into the database. So those are the generic fields plus some additional fields that were created for this demo database. You can directly add a field on the table or add what we call a panel. A panel is a kind of new tab containing some specific fields. So if you want to, for example, add 5 fields concerning the invoicing part regarding the company, then you can create a tab and place the fields within the tab.
Okay.
So that's one possibility. But for today, let's imagine that I will create a new field directly on the table, and then after that, place it on a form. So I will create this new field.
Yes.
I'm creating a panel which is demo, and on the panel I choose to add a field, and I will say this is a field called maybe demo checkbox. This is the name that you will use also in order to have this definition on your screen. So don't create strange names, use right names that are defining quite well the content that will be present within this field. When you have selected your name of the field, you can choose different type of fields. So you have the edit box. An edit box is like, for example, the place where you can fill in, for example, an address or something. You can choose the kind of data that will be placed within the edit box. Alphanumeric text, numeric text, date and time, numeric integer, currency, etc. So here, let's imagine that I want to create not an edit box, but a checkbox.
Yeah.
Okay, a checkbox. You can choose when you will create a new company, will it be automatically checked or not? So I will say not checked by default. And the system is placing it here on the screen. You can, of course, choose where you want to place the field. And you can modify the characteristics of the field. So, for example, if you want to make it searchable, you can click on search field, and then it will be present within the list of elements that are searchable within the search window of the company level.
And can I make it also mandatory?
Yeah, mandatory. You are clicking on not required. You place it like that, and then no, it's mandatory. So it's quite easy. You can place a default value. Of course, here it's a checkbox, so by default it's 0 or 1. So in this case, it's not really relevant. But okay, if you want to align precisely your fields, you have here the positions. So you have position from the left of the screen, the top of the screen. You can define also width and height of the field that you are editing. Tab order is quite also important. If you have some users that are using the tabulation in order to switch from one field to another one, you can place an order so that people will say, okay, I will first create, for example, and fill in the name of the company, then after that the VAT, then after that the phone number. You can automatically switch from one field to another field in this tab order. The hint part is in fact what you have as a definition when you are overlaying in fact the field with your mouse.
Okay,
you will have a comment like this one. So if you are placing a hint, each user will have this description.
I don't know if it's relevant to go into it now. If not, we take it up later. Patrice has a question. When will it possible from the admin console to hide show fields using conditions? If field A is X, then display field B. Today it's only possible through script. For cloud version, no good, as we do not create ourselves this kind of script.
Yeah, actually it's a limitation, but we are working on that in order to add this functionality within the designer for the next versions. So yeah, for the moment, it's only by script that we have the ability to do that. What we are doing actually within the designer is letting the opportunity for the users to have a field appearing if it's not empty, for example, but we are not managing conditions. That's correct.
Okay, so maybe not the answer you had expected, but
it's
an answer.
We are working on it. The R&D knows that it would be quite helpful for customers, but also for our partners and also for internal teams in order to deploy more quickly those conditions.
All right. Good question.
Okay. So when you want to add a field, first you select the type of field. So you have the edit box, the drop-down box. Drop-down is quite important. This is the ability to have a list appearing within field. And so let's say drop-down demo. You define the type you want, you click on OK, and then here on the bottom of the screen, you have the ability to select the drop-down you want to apply to this field. So if you already have a drop-down containing values, like for example, the mode of an action, let's say postcodes, etc., that you want to reuse on different fields, you can download a table which is actually already placed in the tool. So as simple as that.
And if we don't have it, if we want to create it,
you all the time have the small plus.
Yeah.
You click on it, and then you will be able to create your lookup.
Okay.
And what is the convention within Efficy is that you all the time have to place within the lookup name the name of the table and the name of the field so that you can find it easily within the list of. So here, for example, I've placed a new drop-down demo field. What I would say is lookup company underscore and then drop down so that you can find it back quite easily within the list. Okay. So adding fields is as simple as that. If you want to apply those fields within the database, you will just apply the structure. It's a button here. When you click on it, the system says, hey guys, don't forget to request a backup. I really, really want you, if you are using Efficy in our cloud, I want you to send us an email saying, okay, I want to apply some modification within the structure, please. Could you please make a backup before doing that to be sure that you will not damage your database, or if you are placing some fields that are not correctly placed, or if you are thinking that we should only place it for a few, let's say, hours in order to test some stuff you want to add. Consider to make it a backup so that you can make a rollback if necessary.
Yeah. Okay. So, and who do they need to inform?
You can send an email to cloud@efficy.com with, of course, your name, first name, your role within the company to be sure that a simple user is not requesting to have a backup before modifying the database. And so the cloud team will verify that you have all the credentials necessary in order to request those kind of intervention.
Okay, and do they need to wait for confirmation from
the
cloud?
Yeah, the cloud will confirm that the backup is done.
Okay, very important.
Yeah, very important. So I will not modify here the structure of the database because because it's not necessary for the demo. But when you click on OK, there is a script that will be generated, and the system will automatically modify the structure of the database, but also the interface, letting you, of course, have those new fields on your screen. Okay.
Yes.
So, creation of a field, creation of an entity. What is an entity? An entity is a major part of Efficy. So, if you are looking within within Efficy, contact is an entity, company is an entity, project is an entity, opportunity. So, if you want to add one entity within this global list,
yes,
you can do it within the designer by simply clicking on the plus, giving a name of your new entity. You can, of course, give translations, so English, French, Dutch, etc. You have to choose a new icon, of course, and you can select if the list of the links in between this new entity and the others will be in edition or in consult mode. So it's quite simple to create a new entity within the designer. When you have created your entity, you will have to request to the project team to publish, in fact, this new entity. So we have a little bit of work on our side just to make them appearing within the interface. So it's not only I'm selecting my icon and I'm placing a name and it's there. No, you have to ask us, to request us to publish the new entity, and your team, your project team, will publish it for you.
So basically, is there a way they can preview what they have done, or is it only after the project team has applied it?
No, for the new entity, you have to request it to the project team and they will publish it. So if you add entities, if you play with fields, if you play with forms, we generally prefer you to do that on a test environment. So you all have the ability to have a test environment on our cloud environment. So if you don't have actually a test environment, please call us, send us an email, request if you want to get delivered from this test environment, and we have the ability to produce your test environment containing either only the structure of your database or the structure and the content of your actual database. So it's a kind of copy.
Okay. So basically, if you want to do this has a huge impact on your CRM. So think about it very well, and don't just try and play. Do it if you need it. Paul asks, is there any example of entity we should add? Well, I guess it depends on your business and your processes, I guess.
So for example, some of our customers which are acting in the real estate market just designed a new entity which is called building. And so they have different buildings linked to companies with different areas. And they also have another entity which is called unit. And a unit is a part of a building. So you can really go really far from the standard generic data model of Efficy, but it's really depending on the business case.
Yeah, and of course your project manager is always happy to assist you whether it's useful or relevant for you to do it before you start.
Think that we generally prefer to create the less entity as possible, but we try to have some try to be rational, let's say. Okay, not too many entities, not too many fields, only the elements that are relevant for the users. That would be the best way. Forms. What is a form? A form is the way you are presenting information on the screen, the first tab of your entity. So here I'm editing the form dedicated to a company. I see that I have different zones within the form. So I have the main part, the contact part, and the address part. Okay. If I want to add a new field within one of those let's say, separation of data, you can directly do that within the designer. So it's related to companies. So companies, it's not the consultant of a company, it's the addition of the company. So I'm going to configure it. So I'm clicking on it and I find back the different sections, main, contact, address.
Yeah.
If I'm clicking on main, here you will find back the different fields that were selected to be presented on this first form. So if you want to add a new value on this form, it's quite simple. You have the list of all the fields that are available on that table on the left. You double click and you get it on your form. You can choose if you want to display it all the time, only if it's not empty, or never display it. So that's not super useful if you are placing a new field on a form and ask not to display it. Yeah. But okay, it's an option, let's say. You can define also the type of representation that you will have on your screen. So here you can force it like a lookup. You can say, okay, it's a currency, it's a phone number, and it will produce it on the right way within the form.
So then also with reporting, you always have, and with queries, you can always have the same, what you say, well, the notification is, for instance, the euro sign instead of euros as a word.
Yeah.
You always get conformity of the data.
Yeah. Okay. So it's quite simple, but you can also add sections. So if you want to add a section here on the definition, not only saying main, contact, and address, but you want to add a new section, just add it by using the designer. So within the designer, you have the option add a section, simply give a name, and then you have a new section, and you can fill the section with new fields.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's quite
quite simple, straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's jump into Chronos. Chronos is the view that lets you have the global history of a company, of a contact, or
very handy.
Yeah. But Chronos is not activated on all entities by default, so you have to activate the Chronos view. So, for example, in this database, Chronos is activated for incident, opportunity, project, contact, and companies. If you want to add a new Chronos view on marketing campaign, product, challenge, teams, trophy, questions, those entities are present within this database. You simply select the entity. I want to add it for here, the campaign management. Do you want it as a master or as a detail? Generally, select master.
Why?
It's quite enough. Detailed is just too much.
Okay.
Too much on the screen. And then you can select, of course, values and the different fields you want also to trace within the Chronos view. When you have selected the elements, you simply say, I want to save it as a Chronos configuration, and it's done. It will appear directly when people are connecting.
So no need to contact Efficy, cloud project manager.
You are not modifying the structure of the database for that. It's just an option that lets you deliver a new functionality on the screen. So easy. Entity is easy, but you have to call us, and fields quite easy, but don't forget to request a backup.
Right.
User rights, group, team, resources.
Yes, the user rights. Yes.
Reuser first. Before applying right and securities, you have to create users, and you can create groups. So here we have different groups, but also two users present on your screen. Let's imagine that I want to create a new user within this database. You define a user card. Let's imagine I will create myself. Fabrice. Full name. You are defining the kind of user. Is it a full user, a concurrent user, read-only user, replication user? So depending on the type of licenses that you have within your database. So let's imagine you have 20 full users and 20 concurrent users. You can apply this user to a concurrent user. so it will be applied to the right licenses.
And these types of users are, well, they are fixed.
They are
right?
fixed. They are fixed. It's related to the different licenses that you can use within Efficy. Okay. Authentication, native or LDAP. So depending on, are you using an Active Directory, or are you using the authentication delivered by Efficy themselves? So this is related to your Active Directory. This is just a login and password content into the Efficy database. So this is a major difference. If you are selecting, of course, the LDAP, then the LDAP and the SSO ID to connect itself to your LDAP and request if the login and the password is correct to your Active Directory, and then give you an access in that case. Okay, so you are not, in that case, you are not placing the password within the database of Efficy. It's just within the Active Directory.
And what do you advise to customers?
It's really depending on what they are using, and if they have an Active Directory, if they want to add an SSO, for example, so a single sign-on or not, you can do both. So there is no specific recommendation. It's a choice.
Okay.
So password management. If it's native, then you have the ability to define if the password never expired. Another good option. Password expired after some days. Password need to be changed at the next login. So that's really useful. So when you create a new user, you will maybe place a generic password, and then after his first login, the system will ask him, could you please fill in as a specific and personal password. Mail property. Okay, so I will add a password. Okay. You have the ability to connect this new user to a contact definition within Efficy. So if you have filled in the contact definition within Efficy, you have the name, the first name, you will have the email address, also the picture will be automatically placed within the system. So you can directly dive in and say, okay, I want to look into the database if there is somebody called Fabrice Lambert. Yeah. Okay.
It's already there.
I'm here. Great. Boom. Now I'm linked, and he knows that he will use my personal email address in order to send notification, etc. User privilege in the designer, user role, those aspects are quite important too. So this user have the ability to modify record security. So with this privilege, I could say that if somebody is creating a new record with some write-in security, I have the right to override those securities and apply new ones. Impersonate users, it's not useful within your case. It's really dedicated to, let's say, if you need to create a new user in order to make some synchro with Exchange or something, then you have the ability to impersonate users. Export data, that's quite important. So when you are using the query manager, for example, or if you want to export data within Excel, you have to give them this right. If they don't have the right, they only have information at the screen, but they cannot extract data.
Yes.
If you activate this option, you should document it into your GDPR documentation.
Yes.
For each user that has this right. Synchronize Efficy drive. So this is the ability for the user to activate the Efficy drive, and so to synchronize some documents coming from project opportunities, for example, and it will be synchronized with their laptop, for example. So this is a great option too. Administer dashboards. They have the ability to create dashboard by themselves within Efficy, and full access. This is a bad option. You never have to click this option, because you really override all the right and securities. And so, no, we are never giving that right either for an administrator. We are generally creating a specific group for administrator with specific right, but not a full access.
Okay.
Privileges in the designer. If you are creating a new user, but for example, let's imagine that this is the sales manager of your group, and you want to let him modify some elements within the designer, like for example, contents of fields or maybe some lookup tables to add values. You have the ability to do that. So you can say, for example, okay, I want to let him an access to the tables and fields, or let him manage new accounts in order to create new users, for example. So he only will have the ability to connect himself to the designer and access to some part of it. Okay. So this is the definition of a user. When you define the user, you choose the group.
Yeah. Before we go to the groups, maybe a quick question from Wim. Can we add a password complexity or minimum password length? You doesn't want everyone to use Efficy as a password.
Yes, you can do that. What I will propose you is that I will send you the documentation regarding this aspect, because you can define some specific elements on the password, but I have a global doc for that.
Okay, we get back to you on that.
Yeah. So choose the groups you want to place this user in. Let's say this is a sales guy. Okay, I'm gonna apply. Okay. So now Fabrice is created and he's part of two groups, the group everyone and the group sales. Let's jump into a group. What is a group? A group is a definition of rights, securities, privileges that are applied to users. So here, as you can see, you have only one user in the sales group. You have some privileges that are exactly the same as what we found on the contact level.
Yeah.
Because if you are applying a group on the user, he will inherit, of course, of those privileges. Table rights. So this is one important part. When a user is part of this group, he will have the ability to access to some part of the application. By default, nothing is selected. So if you connect yourself with this new user and you are not applying some show, modify, delete, write, he will just see nothing within the system. So first of all, the show is just, okay, I have the ability to see, for example, here a company definition. I have the ability to modify or to delete or to add new ones. Be careful by selecting those rights and security. So table rights, it's quite important. Don't be too limitative, because if you try to restrict the maximum right and security, problems during the usage of Efficy, because one big part of Efficy is I want to share data. Yes. I want to share the know-how. So if you close the door, then after that users will ask you, is it possible for you to open the door?
Yeah.
So don't close too much. Okay.
That's basically what, well, my experience in other companies is that they start from, we close everything and then we see what we can open, and then you have, of course, the total opposite of what you want to achieve with a, well, in this case, a CRM. It's sharing information.
Of course. So if you think closing some, think it with an analyst or a project manager, please. It will be the best way, I think, for you to avoid the creation of frustrations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the work for the administrators to modify all the time.
Of course. List sharing. When you use Efficy, you have lists. I will show you one type of list. Okay. When you click on task, you have a list of all your tasks. The agenda, this is one kind of list. The list of documents, of projects, etc. You have the ability within the designer to define which group and which user will have your list shared. Yeah. So I've opened this is the good one. Sorry. People from the sales group will share, for example, the opportunity list with the group, let's say help desk, okay, and the other sales guy. The document list with, for example, the administrator, the group for customers, and the group for the help desk. So this is not a full access. This is just you have the ability to select my list and have a view on my list. Okay. After that, you will have the default securities, and those are really important too. This part is quite complex to understand for people that never had to manage write-in securities. But when you are a sales guy from this group, when you create a new record, so a new company or a new contact, what are the rights that you are giving to other groups? So it's really, I create a new company, I have rights for myself, but I'm also giving rights to others. And so let's imagine that as a record owner, so when I'm creating a new element, let's say a company contact, anything, I will have full control on what I've created. But the administrator will also have full control. But here, let's imagine that the other sales guy will not have full control on the company. They will have a suite. So they will be able to search, to click, to open the company, but not to modify the company or secure it differently or delete it or have global control. So you define here write-in securities in both ways. First of all, you are defining who's going to see what, and then after that, who will receive write-in securities from my creation of new elements within Efficy. That's it for the definition of a group. So when you're defining all those elements, they will automatically be applied to the users that are part of this group.
So, and I think, again, as with the tables and the fields and so on, it's very important to think about this first before applying and playing with it.
And if needed, please request some help from your analyst or your project manager. Resource management, quite useful for a lot of our customers. The good news is that you don't have a specific license needed for that, so it's free. You can create how many resources you want. It's not related to the licenses of your user. So if you want, for example, to create a resource for, let's say, a meeting room, I would say meeting home first floor. I'm creating this new resource, and now I have a shared agenda for this resource within Efficy. It's as simple as that. So you want to create resources for meeting rooms. Let's imagine pool cars, anything you want to share, you can create them directly within Designer. Okay,
fantastic,
super,
fantastic. Koen says, if I give a user full access, is he still restricted by the privileges of this group?
No, he will have full access. So it's really not a good idea to full access. It's depending on full access. Where full access? That's a good question. So I will jump into
which level did you give?
If it's
Koen, which level did you give the person full access?
If it's this one, if you click on that, then really it's overriding everything. Yeah. And this is not a good option, really. Koen is typing, so I'm just waiting.
Good to know. Okay. The person loses his full access, I guess, after this webinar.
Yeah. If it's checked, unchecked. Let's jump into content management of your database. So lookup tables preferences for today, and maybe if you want, even if we have sometimes translations if necessary, but the two major parts are lookup and references. So lookup tables, those are lists of values that you can apply within fields. So I want to take one which is well known. When you create a task, for example, desk task demo. I'm creating a new task. Within a task, you have two fields here, mode and nature. When you click on mode, you have values, absent, could be equal, blah, 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 and the nature of this action. Let's imagine you want to add a new nature within this lookup. Jump back into the designer. It was an action and it was mode and nature. So acti, it's automatically filtered on all the values that are linked to actions, mode and nature. So I'm clicking on nature. You find administrator, financial, marketing, sales, technical, blah, blah, blah. You want to apply a new value, up. New value. Of course, translations are available, so you can apply all the translation directly. You have the sort order, so if you want to place one value on top, use it, please, and never delete a line.
Okay. Why?
Because when you are deleting a line, generally is deleting an ID also, and you probably had some records created in the past with those values, and you want to keep past values in the system. It's also quite useful if you are using reports that were looking for those old value within the system. So you simply deactivate this value. It will not be present anymore within the list when you create a new element, but it will be keeping values of the past.
Okay.
So modifying a value is as simple as that. So I've now added a new value within the system.
And it's already appearing right away, or is it like the others? Do we need to contact first?
No, it's applied. So you have first here looking, oh, this value is not present within my field. That's normal because the context of the user has not changed. So you have to log off and log in back now that you have the new values within the system. This is the only thing you have to do. So that was an access to lookup tables. References. You create references on any kind of information within Efficy. So here we have three different references applied to documents. One is called analysis, contract, and documentation. Let's look in detail at this one. So you place a name, you keep it active or not, so you can create new references or deactivate all references. Place a short name, docu. Here it's a document, so you select the short name you want. The counter, you can apply a value in the counter if you want to start from a specific counter. Of course, you can select, is this reference modifiable or not within the system? And then after that, you select the format. And selecting the format is also super easy. I will create a new one just to show you. I'm clicking on the plus. I'm saying, okay, this is a new reference for, let's say, documents. Yeah, okay. A name, Timo reference. The Timo theory. I don't know. The counter. Let's imagine I want to start to 1, and then I'm selecting the way it will be represented. So the short name, so it will take
This,
the work.
yeah.
Then after that, separator. Let's imagine the name of the user. After that, the year and the counter, for example. And so the structure will be automatically filled in each time you are creating and selecting, of course, the reference here, demo reference associated to a new document. Yeah.
Great.
When you have created your reference, you have to select the group of users that will be able to select those references and use them. So here, it's only for sales guy. You click on OK, and it's done. A new reference is presented within the system.
Great. And immediately again.
Yeah.
Active.
So
well, after log off, log on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Clear.
Yeah. Translation. If you need some translation, you have to know that with an Efficy you can translate any information that are present on your screen. So tables, fields, entity, reference, panels, queries, sections, anything. So let's imagine I want to have an access to fields. Then you can select the table. I will say, okay, only actions. Nature, we spoke about it. You click on nature and you have all the values that are actually defined within the system. If you create a new field, of course, it will not be filled in like a standard field, so you can directly create by yourself your translation.
Okay. And you have to do it by label, or can we just say, okay,
no,
we have the same language is language and style is...
This is an edition mode, which is relevant if you only have created one or two fields.
Yeah.
When you start a new project and when we are creating, I don't know, hundreds of fields within the system that you have to traduce it, we have a specific import tool. So we can give you an Excel sheet, you can directly fill in the Excel sheet, and we are importing directly all the translation into the system. So, so yeah, it's useful if you want to add some fields, but not
for a project now. Okay, good to know, I guess, for people before they start translating everything.
And by default, really all the standard fields are completely translated, and also all the tables, all the content, all the forms.
Okay.
If you have any question on when you are playing, well, no, don't say playing. No. We are not playing with the designer, but when you are working with the designer, on the top of your screen, you have the help file, and you have direct access to what we call our EDN for developer network. And you're directly jumping into the help file of the designer, and it's grouped by category of element you want to manage. It's well done. It's completely detailed, and you each time have an example. So the samples are present. So this was the first introduction to the designer. We are delivering trainings, what we call basic trainings about the designer and the advanced training on the designer. So if you want to learn more about the designer, feel free to request.
It can be very useful. It's maybe, of course, a training is always an investment, but I think it's an investment that you really can benefit from in the long term.
Yeah.
Because it's better to have someone to create easily fields or content than all the time having to go to your project manager and say, okay, we just need one field. So the training is a good investment, I think, for the company in the long term.
Can we add callback option in drop-down menu mode in task? Yeah, of course. Of course, you can do that.
Yeah, you can. I think you can do everything you like. Maybe
you can.
Yeah. Order lunch.
Yep.
Could be a good task for someone.
So I don't know if you have some more questions about the designer, but okay, on the aspects that we just explored today, feel free to ask within the chat.
Yep. As you noticed, we finished the live demonstration now on the designer, and we are at the Q&A.
Yeah, that's it. Correct. Kathleen is typing. Can you show us, for example? Okay. So can we add callback option in drop-down menu of mode in task? I'm going within lookup tables definition. I'm looking for action, so
yep.
acti. It's within the field mode. Within mode, you have some values by default. You want to apply a new row, I'm clicking on apply and append a new row. I will create callback. Yeah, will not produce in that case. Then let's open it. I'm clicking on OK. And now
after logging off.
Yeah,
logging in.
Yeah. You will have it. So let's log off. Login. It was okay. Login. So when I'm creating a new task, callback is there.
So Paul, you said callback is generated, the option is there, but generating an action, the option is not there. Did you?
Generating an action, the option is not there. I'm generating an action, callback is generated, the option is there, but generating an action, the option is there. Generating an action. What do you mean by generating an action?
Well, maybe you need to explain it a little bit more, Paul, and then we can meanwhile answer the question of Wilfried. Do we need licenses for read-only users?
Yes, there is a specific license for read-only user.
Of course,
it costs less.
Yeah, it costs less, of course, yes. So Wilfried, if you are in need for some read-only licenses, contact your account manager, and he's very happy to help you with that.
And Paul, please feel free to send us your question, but in detail.
Yeah. Send it to the email address mentioned above in the chat to avi@efficy.com, and we'll make sure you get an answer on that.
Can we also have a new tab? For example, the company edit view can be restricted tab for a certain user. Yeah, that's a good question. For example, in that case, I will take the company, so Efficy quarters. Yeah, this is your object is unavailable. Of course, it was before my log off. I don't know if So here I have a category which is called addresses, and this is a tab. Okay? And this tab is present by default, but you can create new tabs within the designer. So let's jump into the designer. You are going to field management. You are jumping into fields, selecting the major table. So here it's based on the company. It's not address, but it's something else. So you want to create a new category. You click on adding a category on companies. You call it, for example, let's see, sales. Okay. When it's done, you can create a new panel within the category, demo. And now adding fields. Demo field. You select your field with the values. You are placing the fields as I showed before. And when it's done, when you apply the structure, I will not apply the structure during the demo, but when you apply the structure, this new category comp sales will be available for write-in securities. So let's jump into a user groups, for example, and you can apply some write-in securities on the tables and the different tabs. Here, this is the tab company address.
Yeah.
So you can say, okay, those kind of user can only have an access to show element, but cannot modify them or modify them. So yeah, you can apply here for specific tabs, specific write-in security.
All right, Kim, I think hopefully this answers your question.
Can I put our company logo in the top left corner using the designer? Same question. The color, can I change the standard green to something else? No, it's not within the designer that we are doing that. It's within the definition of the
CSS.
The CSS, of Efficy. But please feel free. If you want to change the logo, we can do it for you. If you want to change the colors, feel free. Request to your project team, and they will do that with pleasure.
Yeah. If you, I think Koen saw it on your demo of the demo environment of Vidal, that different color and the logo of the company. So it's of course it's possible.
Of course it's possible. It's also, I think, important to give you your proper tool. It's the tool of your company. So
CRM should be the beating heart of your company and daily interaction with your customers and suppliers, and make it yours, of course. If there are not any more questions, I think we can round up, because we're already busy for an hour, and I think it was very interesting, Focus. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, really. And if any other questions, send it by mail.
Yeah, you can send. If you have questions, send it to the email mentioned above in the chat at avi@efficy.com, and we'll make sure you get a proper answer on your questions. For now, I would like to thank Fabrice. Thank you for taking your time.
My pleasure.
This was the last webinar of 2019. We are back in January. I think, if I say it right, it's the 22nd of the 23rd. Do we have a slide in there?
Yeah. We have a slide. 1 second. And next webinar.
Yeah, and it's the 22nd. 22nd needs it to be that, not 20. It's about the email cleanup. We're gonna give you some tips to clean up email based on a 4D or D4. What's the principle? 4D principle to clean up your email. We actually apply at Efficy as well. From now on, as you already noticed, the webinar starts at 9:30, and 9:30 because it gives people a little bit more breathing space to join. We noticed that 9 o'clock is quite tight. So for now, we wish you a very happy holidays.
Enjoy on your side. Thank you for your message to Wim, for example. Let's see us back in January, and enjoy.
All right.
Take care.
Okay. Koen, yes, we'll just send me an email that I have the right Koen to send the answer to.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, and have a nice day.
Yeah. See you. Bye-bye.